Welcome to a special edition of Ghana Diaspora Voice, the show that aims to keep the diaspora conversation in focus. My name is Africanus Annan. Branding itself as gateway to Africa and stabilize democracy in West Africa, Ghana still faces challenges in the area of governance and other strategic sectors within the state apparatus. And there has been recent corruption allegation against Parliament as a body, and it looks as though the image of Parliament is heavily dented, and for that matter, need to build the confidence to earn the goodwill of the populace. Joining me on the show is Honorable Osei, Ghana's leading opposition member of Parliament for Subim in Kumasi, and the ranking member for Trade, Industry and Tourism Committee, and chair of the party's sector committee. Obtaining his MA in Development Economics from William College in Massachusetts, USA, Honorable Osei returned to Ghana in 1977 to start his career in the public service. He worked as consultant for the World Bank, USAID, DFID, UNCTAD, and some private institutions, traveling the length and breadth of Ghana, interacting with ordinary people, especially in the rural areas. Honorable Osei also worked in various capacities in the private sector, serving on several boards, including Aluworks Ghana Limited and Cocoa Processing Company Limited, and later as Managing Director of Intravenous Infusion Limited, prior to his appointment as High Commissioner of Ghana to the United Kingdom. Honorable Osei later returned to Ghana and was appointed as Chief Executive of Ghana Cocoa Board in 2006, and later resigned his position in December 2008 after winning the parliamentary seat of Subim in Kumasi on the ticket of the new Patriotic Party, a position he retains till now. Welcome, Honorable Osei.
Thank you.
You're welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, being once Ghana High Commissioner to the United Kingdom, I'm sure you had a lot of experience with the Ghana diaspora. What are your personal views on the larger Ghanaians and the diaspora in terms of their contribution towards Ghana's next phase of development?
Well, first of all, we have to understand that the Ghanaian diaspora, especially in the UK, is not a uniform group. There are those who came in the immediate post-independence period to study in this country. Many of them went back and practiced law or became teachers or engaged in some other professions. Then there are those who came in the mid-60s and especially in the early 80s. Some of them came as political refugees, but many more people have come also as economic migrants, seeking greener pastures in a developed country like Great Britain. There have been some too who may be classified as overstayers, those who have come on visitors' visas and find that they are unable to,
For some reason.
to go home. So they also are here. But amongst all these people, we have a large group of professionals. Some working in the city, some working with various businesses. But all these people I know have acquired some knowledge. They have acquired skills. Some people have accumulated funds. And it was a pleasure for me to work with Ghanaians. Many Ghanaians own businesses in this country. And I believe that many are trying to link back to the mother country. So they do have a role to play in the transfer of their skills, in the investment of their accumulated funds, and also in the remittances that they send on a regular basis.
That's right.
Home. But I think there could be other roles for Ghanaians in the diaspora.
Well, if you can throw light on them.
Yes, I think, for example, in the area of conflict resolution, for example, if the Alabanos and the Nkonyas who live in this country can get together, it may well send a signal. If the Abudus and their brother and daddies get together in this country as a group of their governments, it will send a signal back home, and they can engage their people back home that here we are brothers. There's no reason why we should fight each other. But they can aid the process of peace building at home. And wherever there's peace, you know that you are making a contribution to poverty reduction, you are making a contribution to development. Also, I know that many our governments since President before have been trying to have this PPP arrangement, public-private partnership arrangements. And I think Ghanaians in the UK have a role to play there also. Because here you are in contact with British businesses, some of you are working in them, and the linkages can be made. In this country, the relationship between Britain and the United and Ghana are on various levels of relationships, not just between our governments, but more especially between our people. There's, for example, the Ghana School Aid, which sends books and other materials back home. Some of the schools here send kits on exchange programs back home. When they get home, the British students coming to Ghana also learn a lot. I mean, they may not come back with material things, but they come back with the respect we have for our adults, the respect for our teachers, and so on and so forth. They also have an appreciation that this is an affluent society where you use your pen halfway, you throw it away, and get a new one. In Ghana, you use it for the dry side. So there are various levels in which we can cooperate.
To be honest with you, there is a greater concern, particularly with people who have been on my show, about corruption in Parliament.
Yeah.
What are your personal views?
Well, let me put it this way. I don't think it's a question of corruption in Parliament. Well, to be very honest with you, since 2008, when I became a parliamentarian, I have never spoken on the floor of Parliament because somebody has asked me to. I've spoken as a matter of conviction. And I have not seen any situation where parliamentarians have been bribed to take certain positions. I'm concerned about corruption in the country, the endemic corruption, the systemic corruption, which makes it difficult for us to find the money to do the things that the country needs. You see, corruption is dangerous because it takes money which otherwise would have been used for development.
That's right.
Away from the public.
It costs us more to be corrupt.
It certainly costs us a great deal. And I think that in the previous government put in place the institutions and the regulatory framework to deal with corruption. We have bastardized, for example, the Public Procurement Act, because since 2009, sole sourcing has become the order of the day. When in fact we can get value for money when actually we tender. There are certain areas, like chemicals and certain fine engineering areas where sole sourcing may be the only way to procure a particular commodity or service. If somebody has expertise which nobody has, then of course I'm sure the PPA will give the opportunity for that agency to go by sole sourcing. But sole sourcing cannot be the norm, because the only way we can get value is through competitive bidding, international or local, to allow
reflective.
Yes, everybody.
Competitive.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, competitive bidding, not just the restricted type, but open competitive bidding.
Transparency.
Absolutely, transparency. When it's transparent and somebody emerges as the winner, so be it. That way, I'm sure that the country will save lots of money. The government has indicated that they are going to bring this public procurement law. They are taking a second look at it. I know the NPP has said that they will definitely review the public procurement law to make it difficult for people to use sole sourcing, especially where there are alternatives. So that's one way. That's one way of looking at it. But I think the whole country is concerned because people know we are not getting value for money. Whether we are buying Embraer planes from Brazil, where we have been very concerned about. There are so many instances that I think people in Parliament, the parliamentarians, have made the point that maybe there's a lot of fat which ought to be cut out to save money for the country. And all of us are engaged in this exercise. And I think those of you in the diaspora, if the government is going to buy a plane, everybody knows the basic price because you can get it on the net, you can get it from the companies. I think you should also add your voice. But here I've seen that the argument has always been those in the NDC are always for the government, and those in the MPP are always against the government. It should not be like that. It should be on a matter of principle. And I know there's a group of parliamentarians in Parliament who have always argued on the basis of principle, and I count myself among them now.
Okay. I'll take it back a bit to the issue of transparency.
Yeah.
I don't think Ghana has ever had the situation or the issue where passing the laws becomes a problem. The laws are passed, but then how to monitor and effectively control has become the issue.
That is why we have to strengthen our institutions of government. You see, when you have institutions which have the capacity and the will to implement the provisions of the law, then of course Ghana will be a better place for all of us.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's digress a bit from the issue of corruption, transparency, and all. Let me ask you directly: how effective or efficient do you think Ghana Parliament is today?
I think Parliament is strong. I think Parliament does a lot of good work away from the public's eye, because most of Parliament's work is done in committees. What you see and what others see is what comes on in the plenary session, the open one. But the bulk of the work which we do on bills and on facilities is done at the committee level, you see. But where the government feels very strongly about it, they end up, and we have a situation where the opposition has its say and the government has its way.
So keying on from what you just said, you realize that most of the serious business, like you're saying, where there is partisanship working on issues and matters, seems to happen in the back. Yeah. But on the front, it always appears divided.
No.
So, what can Parliament do?
If you are really tracking what goes on in Parliament, you will see that we often agree on a lot of things. It's always a voice vote, and most of the people will say aye, and then the bill is passed. But when we have serious difficulties and we are required to vote, then you will see that there's a real division. But you see, ultimately, what I would often tell my fellow parliamentarians is that, you see, everything that you say on the floor of Parliament is recorded in the Hansa. And history will not be kind to you if you don't do what is right for the people of the country. If you have a sense of history, if you have a sense of your country and the future, then you do what is right.
Well, to be frank with you, currently Ghana Parliament has really lost its face with the general populace. So now what can Parliament do to
Parliament has to
gain the goodwill of the general populace?
You see, I think it is important that Parliament does the right thing. For me personally, I can tell you that I do not mind, what people say, so long as I know what I'm doing is right. I think Parliament has to do what is right for the people of Ghana, not on a populist platform, just to please everybody. I think what is important is that what you are doing is right, and you believe firmly that it is in the interest of the country so to do. It may be unpopular, but that is the right. If it's the right thing to do, you've got to do it.
Thank you. I know you're currently a front runner of the opposition. Would you say that Ghana Parliament is rubber stamp?
To the extent that those of us who find ourselves in the majority at every time believe that every bill which is brought by government should be approved. To that extent, it becomes a rubber stamp. Okay. But to the extent that you can have your say and have a different view then you can say that certainly you have aired your views. Sometimes the government will bulldoze something through, but they come back and when they realize it's a mistake. And the case in point is when we argued very vehemently. My friend and brother Osei argued very vehemently on the floor that the conditions for the loan, and several others did, conditions for the loan, required us to pass all the subsidiary agreements. The government took a different view, but now they have to come back and pass the subsidiary agreements. There are a whole raft of things that we need to do, especially with this new oil money and how that is handled for the benefit of the country. These are things I think we should engage our attention, so that we do the right thing and that we don't end up with the Dutch disease, where you have oil and then you are not able to do anything with the oil. In our case, we will remain a poor country in spite of having oil. Meanwhile, some people may become very, very rich. The broad masses.
You brought up this issue of the oil discovery. There is this saying that the discovery of black gold is a curse to a nation. In our case, as Ghanaians,
it should not
be a curse or a blessing?
It should not be a curse. My own view is that we should ring-fence oil revenues and use them for the development of infrastructure in the country. That is my view.
But is that the case?
It is not. Because most of the money goes into the annual budget funding amount. So it beats my mind. I've been thinking, because that's the law that was put in place under the Petroleum Revenue Management Act. You see, if we do not do something solid with the oil for future generations, we might live to regret it. We put all the money in the budget. I think we need to amend that law and put most of the money in infrastructure development. When the NPP during the last election talked about free education, the basis of free education was not simply to educate people, but also to bring some equalization. Once you educate the broad masses of the people, even those who are poor can find that their children are also able to access education. And all of us know, sitting here, we know that education opens doors, which otherwise would be closed. So I'm very pleased that the president now has seen the wisdom of that policy and is also advocating a certain version of it.
Honorable, what would you do different, considering what the current government is pursuing in terms of education? What would you do different to?
We've already had a year and a bit of the government. The government promised to build, 200 secondary schools all over the place. So far, none has been built, but I take it that they will continue that. But it's not about bricks and mortar only. Previously, in the NPP manifesto, what we said we would do was to make secondary school education free. We showed the numbers, we showed how it was going to be done and funded. And not only that, we also indicated the importance of teacher training. Because without the teachers in the classrooms,
there's no need to expand.
Well, you can expand and you have empty places.
That's right.
For example, we have built a lot of CHIPS compounds, and there are no nurses to man them. So the buildings are there, but the facility is not working. We don't want that to happen to education. We have to look at it very, very, very seriously and realize that the teachers have a great input, and that is the MPP way. The NDC now is saying that they are coming, from the President's State of the Nation address. He's saying that it's going to be a gradual process, and that is fine. If it's going to be a gradual process of free education. The question we ask is that the President himself was a beneficiary of free education.
That's right.
And now he's President. So he must know that, if other people also get the benefit of free education, they may well also have the opportunity to advance themselves. And that is really what we are saying. We are saying that as an omnibus platform, the money that we can save from all these things happening in our country, the corruption and so on and so forth, should be plowed into education. When you plow it into education, it means that Ghanaians in general are going to have the benefit of it, because the money that otherwise you would have spent on your child education, government has an uptake on that. And really that's the difference.
Thank you. Honorable, currently the president and the government of Ghana it's come under heavily criticisms in terms of their policy and what they announced to do and what they've done so far. Irrespective of
which area?
When it comes to education, particularly education, should we not give them the benefit of the doubt?
Well,
you
see, it is a government's record in office which determines whether we believe that they can do something or not. All the promises which were made in the last stage of the nation address, there's not a single one which has been implemented. So what confidence will Ghanaians have in the government when it says that we are going to do something this year? The important thing for us is to give people hope. And if they don't have confidence in the ability of the government to generate that hope, nothing works. The business community is suffering. Interest rates are so high that we cannot compete with our brothers in Cote d'Ivoire and in Togo, in Burkina, in Nigeria, because their interest rates are much lower. So a businessman from day one, you cannot compete because your interest rates, you are borrowing at 30% or something crazy like that. So clearly, it's not going to work. With this. That is why I have called for a national conference to discuss how we move forward as a country. But what we don't understand is that money which before was not there has come into the system, and yet we are not able to deliver public services. There must be something wrong. There's a disconnect somewhere, and I think this government has to help Ghana by fixing that problem.
But before you go, there's this charm about you that you connect so easily with people, with the youth. You're on Facebook, you're responding directly. What is the secret?
I don't think it's a secret. When people talk to you, I think you must respond. I don't see anything special about it. That is the way of the world today, and I think we must move with the times. I'm not a very young man, but I think it's important that I engage, especially young people, because they are the future of our country. And not only are they the future of our country, young graduates coming out of school are ready to play a part. Yes, they are ready to, I won't say media role, but they are ready to play a part. And we shouldn't say that only those of us who have had a long period of experience. You see, because they bring new ideas, they bring a fresh approach. Young people have a horizon way beyond some of the things that we did when we were at school. Certainly when I was at school, this tablet was not there. The mobile phone was not available. When you wanted to call somebody in Britain, you had to book for about a week and go to PNT, and then if you are lucky, they tell you that, go to booth number 2. Things have changed.
That's right.
When I first came to Britain in 1962, it took me 9 hours to get here. These days it's only 6 hours. Right. So things have changed. Technology has changed, and we must bring that technology to bear, on development in our country. I think it's crucial that we do so.
Thank you very much. Certainly, this is the man who is in tune with the time and his generation. Thank you very much, Honorable, for coming on the show.